Welcome, my fellow professionals, to all PMI certifications under the microscope. It's a pleasure to be presenting this to you today. We have a panel of PMPs, ACPs, CSMs, and more. So I'll go first. My name's Phill. I've been a project management professional since 2005. I've also embarked on an additional 5 certifications from the PMI, including the SP, the RMP, the ACP, the OPM3, which is now defunct, as well as others I can't remember. But anyway, let's move to our next member of the panel. Let's go with Ed. Ed, you want to introduce yourself and give people some context on your background?
Yes, my name is Ed. Better known, you call me ED for all you smart and intelligent folks out there. Hey, that just simply means Ed. Have a background, PMP, CAPM, future ACP, CSM, ISP, agile coach, etc., author, coach, trainer, mentor, individual for the people, as you could say. So back to you, Bill.
Thank you, Ed. Let's go on to our friend Deidre. Deidre, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Deirdre Norris. I am a servant leader. I am also a project manager and ACP certification through PMI. Love serving and helping others and looking forward to the session and welcome.
Thank you, Dee. And we have our friend Darrell.
Hello, Phil. Hello, everybody. I am Darrell Mesa, and I am an AI influencer focusing on project management and how AI can be integrated in project management and all sizes of projects.
Thank you, Darrell. Well, now that we've all given our introductions, let's jump in to discuss all PMI certifications under the microscope. First of all, for those who don't know about the PMI, Project Management Institute, the PMI is the leading nonprofit organization for project management. Been around since 1969, and they've been instrumental in putting project management on the map. The work they have done is truly commendable. To get more information about the PMI, I would recommend that you go on down to the PMI website, pmi.org. We will be going to pmi.org quite a lot today because pmi.org is where you can get additional information, the latest and greatest regarding all the things that we're going to be presenting here. There's a lot of information to unpack regarding their numerous certifications. And in order to get the latest and greatest, you need to go on down to this website that I'll put on the screen here. This is pmi.org. You can see we have a certification section. And if you click on the certification section, you can see the various certifications of the PMI that we will be talking about today, especially the PMP, the CAPM, the PgMP, the PfMP. We'll also talk about PMI-CP and the ACP. But before we go any further, we got to clarify something. And what we need to clarify is the fact that getting these certifications is awesome. It gets you in the door. But I don't want those of you that haven't been on this rodeo before to think that getting certifications equates to getting a job or equates to getting employment quickly, because it does not. I also want you to understand that getting these certifications is great, but what transcends the certifications is the mentoring and coaching that must follow from experienced individuals who have been in the field, okay? So if you take a look at the various certifications that exist, they are from different walks of the world of project management. We have risk management, construction, business analysis. And in order to do it justice, we've got to do a deep dive. But I know some of you may be looking for an overview. So what I'm going to do first is give you a very quick overview of all of these certs. And then we'll go a step further and go into some more depth. Okay? So for now, let's jump into a high-level view of many of these certifications. I'll just give you the top of the waves, as they say, and my colleagues will be commenting accordingly as they see fit to make this a roundtable discussion. So, first and foremost, let's address the number of PMPs in the world today, to give you some context, the number of PMPs is in the region. The last time I checked, from the last official publication from PMI, was approaching 1.5 million. Okay. So I have here a snippet from PMI's now defunct PMI fact file. This was back in 2023. This was the last one that Tara published. Tara had done a great job over the years publishing this stuff to projectmanagement.com, and she was so great when we were working with her in the REP program. And she took on this role of putting all these stats out. And the last one that was published, the very final one, we can see that the number of PMPs was 1.454 million. That is insane. Ed, what do you think about this number? I mean, just thinking about what 40,000 looks like in a stadium. We've packed out tons of stadiums with PMPs. How do you feel about that?
You know, it's exciting because it lets you know the platinum status, as I would say, of the certification, meaning that it is worth something in any country or wherever you're located. So it just lets you know people are committed to learning more about project management as a whole instead of being interested, Phill.
Absolutely. Dee and Darrell, what do you feel about being part of the 1.4, well, let's say 1.5 million? I'm guessing the number has hit that, because I know our CEO put out some information on social media last year. I was not able to locate the post, but it's definitely hitting that 1.5, if not more, million mark. What do you think?
I think it's an honor to be a part of this community. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication. Goes back to what you said earlier. You need a mentor to help you through the process of even achieving this goal. But it's an honor to be able to be in this community and be mentored and grow, and then bring the practical application into the workforce, and then be able to share it with the next generation that's coming. So I'm honored to be in this number.
Thank you, Dee. Darrell, what do you feel about that?
I'm with the same as Deidre and Ed. However, I would like to challenge the status quo in regards to, the near future, in the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, as AI is being integrated into our lives.
Very good thought, Darrell. So let's go down the list real quick. So for those who wanted to get an idea, just a rough idea, again, this is 2023. This is about a year and a half ago. So just be aware this number has grown, but this was the last official that I got from PMI. And you can see the number of ACPs, about 60,000, number of construction professionals, just 100 at the time, RMPs, 16,000 at the time, SPs, about 3.5 thousand, PBAs, about 7,000, PMPs, crazy, 1.5 almost million there, PgMPs, 5,000, PfMPs, almost 2,000, and PMI Project Management Ready, which is for newbies, quite commendable, 6,000 there. So again, going back to what Darrell said, to challenge this status quo of the numbers, what does the future hold? We already know that AI is on the scene, and it will bring a lot of changes. So if you're looking for that discussion, stay tuned, because Darrell is going to bring some perspective to that. But as far as the outlines for the project management certifications we're going to address, we have a list of all the outlines, and we're going to bring some context to unravel each outline and go into what is required for each certification. But let's take a look at the top of the waves for those of you that are in a hurry and you just want some fast PM information. Let's give it to you right away. So at the last time I put this information together, and we're going to go back in and ensure that right now it's still the same thing, but the PMP, we had about $675 to take that cert, just plan for that. CAPM, $300, PgMP, $1,000, PfMP, $1,000, ACP, about $500. I know these numbers have changed quite recently. PBA, 555, and I'm talking about non-members. For members, it's less. So you got two prices there. And like I said, always check the website for the latest and greatest. RMP about 670, PMISP about 670 if you're not a member. The cost of membership at the last time I checked was about $139. So tag on the membership fee to the member fee, which comes first. For those of you who are wondering, well, there are two fees. Yeah, to be a member costs money. And as a result of that, you get the exams for less, right? Construction professional, 405 if you're a member, 555 if you're not. Again, that number could have changed. And these two at the bottom, PMI, PMO, certified professional, and cognitive project management in AI, that as well, you got to check the sites. But as far as what you need for each one, to be a PMP, you need a high school diploma, an associate's degree to begin the qualification. If you don't have a high school diploma, you can't do this. So you must have that at least. And then you can have a 4-year degree or master's degree. It makes no difference. If you have a high school diploma, you need 5 years leading, managing projects. If you have a 4-year degree, and when we say 4-year, in the United States, it's 3 years. So we're talking about a bachelor's degree or the global equivalent, then you need at least 3 years leading, managing projects. And if you have any questions about this, because it could be quite hazy, and there are many fine lines that divide this description of projects. For example, I had a stakeholder who worked on a very robust kitchen improvement project at home, and he was able to use that to qualify. I had another student who was part of a sorority, and they had very extensive programs, and she used that to qualify. And I've had other students who were part of sororities, and there was one particular project that a student worked on for ages, which was providing scholarships to disadvantaged youth. And that was her project she used to qualify for her PMP. So you don't have to have worked for Fortune 500 to qualify. You could have worked on a project where there are records, where the information can be validated, presented in a logical way, and checked. For CAPM, you need a high school diploma, 20 and 23 hours. For the PgMP, it's a little bit more intricate. So if you got a secondary school diploma, then you need a combination of things: 48 months of PM experience, 84 months of program experience. And it gets rather intricate as you go down the list, but I don't want to bore you. You can hit pause and you can take a look at these to get a top of the waves idea of the prerequisites. Okay. Now, before we go into a little bit more detail on each one, if you're going to say, okay, Phill, which one is the most popular in the world that will likely get me some attention in the job space? It's the PMP. This one is being searched for by everyone and their grandma in the professional space. So if you're looking to jump in and you have the prerequisites, this is not a bad one for you. However, also be aware that the CAPM is a good entry level. And I've had many students that have gone through CAPM first because it's low risk in terms of cost and they want to get their feet wet. Now, for those of you that already have a PMP and you're thinking, what next? Well, the what next depends on your industry. Some people are managing multiple interrelated projects called programs. For them, maybe, just maybe, the PgMP is a possibility. But I'll tell you straight up, the PgMP is like PMP times 5. So you got to have the aptitude and the amplitude to tackle it. You see the amount of work needed? Just talking about experience. And then even if you have a 4-year degree, you still need 4 years of PM and 4 years of program experience. And then you're going to have a panel review and then take a look at what it costs. So you got to put these in their proper perspective. But in all honesty, the PgMP does not necessarily mean you're going to get employment as a program manager. The landscape is very different. Most PgMP people are maybe working for companies that support it, or they believe that it will add something significant to their career, but they're not doing it just to get in front of an interview. Because the interviews that people get for program management, if you take a look at the Indeeds, the LinkedIns, the Monsters and the Dices of the world, they're asking for just a PMP most of the time. Very rarely do you see PgMP preferred. Okay. And just so you know, program management is hinged majorly on 2 topics. The 2 topics that program management is insanely hinged on beyond the technical knowledge that you'll find in the PGM book, is leadership and stakeholder engagement. If you are certified and you are worthless when it comes to leadership and stakeholder engagement, well, good luck. You'll probably be kicked out of the door, because the multiplicity of programs have stakeholders that really don't care about your PGM book. It's what have you done for me as a program manager? So I just wanted to give you context so that you don't feel I'm leading you down a blind alley. Don't get me wrong. I love the program management standard. I've written books on it, which you can find on Amazon, about this standard that PMI have very recently introduced the principles to. I love it. But I don't want you to go away thinking, oh, Phill said I should get PgMP. So no, I'm not saying get PgMP. I'm just telling you what's at stake. Now, the knowledge that you get from going through the process is insane. It's great. It just puts you further ahead of your peers who are managing programs without any framework, right? I talk about the GABSP, the Get a Big Soda Pop framework, which I coined as such. You can find books and videos on that. In fact, if you go to the Project Leadership Institute channel, you can find tens of hours of program management training that I've put out there. So I love it, but I don't want you to think this is your next step. For some of you who are PMPs, your next step very well might just be, let's skip portfolio for now. Let's go to the ACP. It might very well be coming for a class where Agile is broken down. Note what I said. I didn't say immediately getting ACP certified. I said going for a class where this is broken down adequately so you have pragmatic awareness and knowledge that you can take back and use, right? So my buddy Roy and I, we have classes on this stuff. And this would be the exception when I say get ACP certified. Trust me, I've been ACP certified since 2016. My ACP, in terms of pragmatism, was worthless. I was still an agile dummy despite getting ACP certified. It wasn't until Roy began to mentor me that the light bulb came on, full blast with agile. And bear in mind, I was also a CSM. So with all of these certifications comes pragmatism. Let me ask our friend Dee and our other two colleagues here what they think about the pragmatism of any of these certifications, because Ed has got CAPM and PMP. Dee, you've got ACP. So what do you think about what I just said? Any
Yes,
feedback?
that's why I joined your you and Roy's class, because I had received the certification but did not have the pragmatic understanding and the actual true mindset of agile. Once I joined that class, it made more sense, and I had already taken the exam, which is why I continue to stay underneath your leadership right now, because I learn more and more each time we have our sessions about the agile mindset, and I'm able to go back into the workforce and actually discuss it, train it, and begin to help my fellow coworkers use an agile mindset in their professional and in their private life, because everything that we do is an agile mindset.
Great stuff, Dee. Thank you. Ed, Darrell, any comments?
Yeah, Phil, this is my sweet spot right here, where the challenge is with certifications and education as a whole is if we get so caught up in the journey of the education and not actually applying once we get to the destination. I think I like that. And the reason why I like that is because the journey allows you to apply what you've learned through certification or education. But for this specific context, we're talking about certifications, and you get to that destination. That destination for you may be a new job opportunity or the existing job that you're currently in. And what we failed to do, and I talked about this in one of my episodes, is that we don't define our post, whatever that certification is, if it's PMP, CAPM, PgMP, we don't define what does that post look like? What was the why we're getting this? And now that we know the why, what are we doing afterwards? Are we going to a Project Management Leadership Institute to learn how to become better leaders, and then taking what we learn and applying it, not just in business, but also, we first have to learn how to lead ourselves before we can lead anyone. So again, I believe that all of it is applicable. I'm a huge component on education, a huge component on certification, because I believe that it gets you aligned of what is out there in the industry. So we're speaking the same terminology, but there's one thing to just go and read a book or go and take a certification and not actually apply what you learn. So those are my thoughts, Phill, right or wrong, but that's where I'm currently standing at the time.
Awesome. Right on the money, Ed. Appreciate that. Thank you. Darrell?
Phil, I'm going to be the bearer of bad news, or just to discuss the openness of not the things we're talking about in regards to, you know, the value of each cert from PMI. I'm really concerned of the value it holds in the future, in the next 5 years at the minimum, max 10 years, because right now you're still considered a key resource as a project manager if you went through the entire journey of being a project manager. However, with AI coming into the integration of our lives, both personally and professionally, um, I believe it's in jeopardy as far as the value. Can each certification get me a job in a matter of weeks, 3 weeks, or even as soon as possible? What's the value there? Is there value now? And is there value in the near future?
Wow. That is a real $1 million question that we need to debate. We're going to
I
debate
want in on that debate, Phill.
Because you're seeing it already. PMI has increased their prices to taking the PMP, the CAPM. They even have the CPMI. Those are hefty prices. And directly towards to you, Phill, you know, as a student, and as I see myself a student in this profession, what's the value? Is it going to get me a job tomorrow? Am I going to have recruiters calling me up like crazy after I get certified for CPMI? You know, what's the value? And I don't think PMI is ready to entertain that question just yet.
I love that, Darrell, about value.
Let's unpack that though, Ed. Let's unpack the word value, because it's a very nebulous word that people throw around. So when we talk about value, let's give the PMI definition of value. PMI tells us that value is the net quantifiable benefits that a customer or stakeholder receives from a deliverable that is delivered. So let's take this as a deliverable. Like Darrell is saying, we spend $1,000 on one of these higher end certifications. What is the benefit in the marketplace that it gives us? Let's not talk about the knowledge alone, but let's talk about the entry into the job space. Does it really give you a benefit, Ed? What do you think about that?
Yeah, as you know, as we were talking about this, I thought about it even more, and you could look at it at two different spaces. So first space, I want to look at it from a financial opportunity. If I am at job A and I'm working job A, I get certified, and job A does not offer me, and let's reference PMP, and they do not decide to give me a pay raise or anything of that nature. Then I go to job B and they want to give me, let's say, whatever that X amount is, whether it's a 10,000, 5,000, 20, or whatever that number is, then I could tie it back and say, yeah, well, I got value from the PMP being PMP because I went to this other company and they gave me a pay raise. But then on the flip side of that, if I just stayed in job A because I enjoy the organization, I enjoy the people that I work with, and if we're not using some of those practices in that actual organization, and I'm only one person as a PMP, or let's say it's 5 of us, then it doesn't add value to the organization. And this is one of the reasons why you would see hiring managers sometimes pushing back on PMPs, because of the fact is that individual or that collective group wants to maybe leverage the PMBOK a lot. But what we fail to understand, and this is to you organizations, is that is a standard guide. That doesn't mean you have to implement everything that's there. We can pick and choose. So the value to me is from a financial standpoint, if I leave company A to go to company B, but I still think the price point for people, coming in is kind of steep. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. I want to be transparent, and I believe it's steep because of the fact of that as this continues to grow, PMP continues to grow, you do have that thought. And I know this is where Darrell gets excited, and I'm gonna make him excited today, is with AI and AI coming in. Now, how do you make that transition where some of these administrative tasks with building a charter, building out all the artifacts in the project management plan, even scheduling, now that I've noticed on certain tools that they're adding AI functionalities to help with the two-way communication or updating your schedule. So this is where Phill, and I'm tying this all back together, Phill, so excuse me for the long-winded response, but this is why it's important you go get this PMP, but the whole point of it is leadership and communication. When you have the ability to be an effective leader and an effective communicator, this is what's going to allow you to separate yourself from people that generally just go get the PMP just to say, I got my PMP in 2 weeks, and now I should be able to go get that 6-figure job. And then they go to the interview and it doesn't go that way. So over to you, Darrell. I see your lips ready to go. So I'm gonna let you.
No, and I'm not trying to be the AI doomer of this conversation. I'm just trying to, really influence the opportunity for AI to be part of the profession. The past 2 years, 3 years, PMI has been, on the quiet side of AI. And the question now that we all ask each other, if you're not a project manager or a regular Joe Schmo working on the job field, are you AI ready? That's the question we all ask. Do you know AI? What do you know about AI? Can you describe what AI is? A prompt. You use ChatGPT. And from here on out, you're looked at as, okay, you're not being very innovative, or you're not adjusting to the future or the near future, which is tomorrow. Right now, Microsoft has a project manager agent. So what value do these certificates hold when going at a steep price? I'm very happy with the steep price, but the value it needs to give.
Yeah. I really am enjoying this discussion. So let's talk about value, because value is both tangible and intangible. So while you may not be able to get immediate employment as a PMP or a CAPM, let's take a look at the list. So we've got PMP, CAPM, we got ACP, we got the business analyst certification as well. We got the risk management professional. We got the schedule. So let me talk as a holder of at least 4 of these certifications in terms of value. And I'll just be straight up honest. The value of the PMP does not come if you are not pragmatic upon getting the job. So PMP will get you in the door. And I'll just speak for myself, because when I was looking for employment 20 years ago, and I needed to get in the door aggressively. Let's be honest, I needed to make more money. Come on now. So I got certified so I could get in the door, make more money. I wanted to get to 6 figures, and PMI got me to 6 figures in less than 4 weeks of getting certified. Now, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but if you don't know the stuff, wait a second, I'm coming, because this is where I got to make it real. I got to speak to those who are not willing to do the work. So you've heard me say reading a PMBOK guide is not going to get you certified. You've heard me say that. But I want you to know this is your professional responsibility to know what's in these books. All right. Before we got on this call, I was just talking to Dee and the gentleman about getting our comments in for the 8th edition. So I take it very seriously. If you're certified and you don't know what's in this book, if you're a PMBOK dummy, you don't know what's in these books. Well, guess what? When you get into the job and you get into a very project management intense PMO related job, and you cannot bring it, you don't bring anything innovative, you're struggling to get your project artifacts done, and you're nervous because you don't know it. You got certified, yeah, because these days everyone's like, oh, I can get you certified in two days. Everyone's saying that nonsense. But what happens when you get in the door and you're not able to pragmatize what you're supposed to know as a PMP? Then you're not going to get value from that. But if you go into a firm, just like I went into Honeywell, not only was I an earned value management expert, earned value management, which some people are running away from, but I embraced it. It's hard, it's difficult to drink the Kool-Aid. But after I drank the Kool-Aid, I was able to add value to the firm I was in because I truly knew earned value, CPI, SPI, TCPI, all the S curves, cumulative earn. I knew all that stuff because I'd studied it. But the problem with PMP is getting certified. People have that feeling that, oh, I'm a PMP, so everything is just going to fall from heaven on my lap. It's a lie. It will not. In fact, you can actually get pushed out of a firm if you are employed and then you're not able to show the value. You have to show the value by studying. Darrell, let me put you on the spot because you're very good with project controls. Is it PMP that made you get good with project controls, Darrell, or did you do some additional work? Let's be honest.
I did some additional work, Phil, but the PMP was my ticket in, to
Yeah.
getting a discussion or a seat at the table.
So
But even at that, I still had to provide value and be able to articulate as a PM.
there you go. And honestly, I mean, because you've been my co-trainer in Microsoft Project Training, project management training, same for Ed, and you folks have done the work. So I want to challenge the misnomer that PMP or any of these other things are going to give you the value without you doing additional work. I think what is missing is, and I'm really appreciative of Dee for wanting to stress this, that yeah, you could get the PMP, the ACP, PgMP, PfMP, but if you don't do the extra legwork, the research, the pragmatism to link what you have been taught or tested, or not even what you've been taught, because I mean, most people don't go for these classes that are exclusively done by PMI. They go for general courses on all these platforms. I mean, we have a course on Udemy. People come for that. But what we try to do is make it as pragmatic as possible. Otherwise, it's very possible for you, like I was. I was an ACP, but I was an agile dummy. I did not know how to make it pragmatic. I would still call agile what it was not. I would refer to Scrum as what it was not. So I'm just being honest and open here. But it's a very good topic and sobering topic to understand as you're getting these certs. You could be certified, and in the marketplace, you're looked at as not being proficient because you go for an interview and you cannot pragmatize all the stuff you're meant to know. You go for a portfolio manager interview and you're not able to speak to things such as what is your framework for choosing one program or project over another? How do you diversify a portfolio? And you cannot speak to that. How do you build in strategy? You cannot speak to it because you haven't pragmatized it. So while I am quite against the steep entry point that Ed talked about, and I'm also against the misnomer that, oh, you get certified and then no. There's another piece to the puzzle which is dependent on the person. So PMI has their responsibility, but we also have ours as well. And I feel that if we don't do our responsibility to pragmatize this stuff, to know how to apply it practically, to seek out, as Dee was saying, mentorship, I feel that if that is not done, then you're just freewheeling. Dee, do you have any opinions and further comments? Because it was as a result of your influence that I added this piece to our discussion, and now it's coming out differently than, more accentuated than I had conceived when you brought it up. So, do you want to give some further perspectives, please?
Yes. Everything you said, Phil, was actually me, myself, if I can be transparent. Went and got certifications, um, thought that I could go back to work and implement things, but I didn't have that on hands experience and I didn't have someone that could guide me because I was in an organization where I was actually the only project manager. They had never had a project manager before. So you have to find someone that can assist you through this process because it is a process if you want to be successful. So I truly believe that this will bring value to you as the individual, as well as value to your organization. But you cannot do it practically if you don't get some assistance.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I appreciate you bringing that up as well about mentorship and coaching. I also want to touch on some because Phill keeps leaving these breadcrumbs, and I'm like I love bread, so let me pick up one of those crumbs, and it's still aligned with what we're saying here. Is I remember when I don't know about you guys, but I had this amazing math teacher, and what she did for me is that I was good with numbers, so I would be able to solve a problem, and she would tell me, "Well, that's great, you solved the problem, but you didn't show your work." Okay, I'm gonna let you think about that for a minute. So what she was trying to say to me is, yes, you got the answer, but you didn't show your work to how you got to the answer. What that translates into business is that when one of my mentors would tell me is that when something is done, whether right or wrong, they want to know what was your process behind coming up with that decision. And for me, the PMP is one of those certifications, or any of the PMI certifications is okay, great. You've showed that you have the aptitude to sit down and pass an exam, and you put in the work to study for the exam. And I'm not talking for those that got it in 2 weeks or 7 hours and 3 minutes. I'm talking about for the ones that really went through the journey. And one of the things you learned is that you had an opportunity to take what you've learned and start experimenting with it. Meaning, okay, well, normally we don't do a charter, so let's start doing a charter here and start showing value. But Ed, what if they don't want to do a charter? Well, you do it for yourself, so that way you start getting those reps in, as we always talk about, sets and reps, meaning we're getting an opportunity to get that pragmatic approach. So it's all about taking what you've learned and being able to show your work of how you've actually done it. Back to you, Phill.
Great stuff, my friends. Thank you very much. I don't know if Darrell has any further thoughts to bring at this time to what we've just said. Darrell.
Just like I said, just with AI, right now at this day and age, you can ask ChatGPT to at least provide a simple training module on the CPMI or the PMP, to get you ready. So there are resources out there to getting the knowledge, for your exam, as PMI is increasing their prices with no value behind it.
Thank you for that, Darrell. Let's continue this discussion by taking a look at what our friend from Ed's channel has commented. Jay says, um, let's look at the first comment. He says, I don't want to chase certifications without experience, but no one will hire without experience. And that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And I often tell people that the CAPM gets you in the door. So it's a very good one to go for at first. But in terms of value, as we've been going back and forth on the topic of value, you also need to take some responsibility, some accountability as far as maximizing the value of your PMP. So think about it. If I sat in the corner while I was at Honeywell and said, well, I'm a PMP, I guess I'll just do my job, that would be it. But I went a step further and I said, I see management is spending a lot of money trying to get my colleagues to be PMPs, and they were failing it. The exam was swatting them like flies. It was just a bloodbath. It was terrible. So I went to my boss, Jim, at the time, rest his soul, Jim Schaefer, great guy. I said, Jim, I'd love to help these people because I see that they're failing. I know a thing or two about the PMP. Mind you, I had not even been certified for up to a year, but I put myself out there and I said, I can help them. Let me have bi-weekly sessions. Bear in mind, this is not Phill, the trainer you know today. This is Phill, the program analyst, the program specialist, the project or program manager that didn't know how to train, but wanted to make a change. And my boss said, okay, let me talk to my boss, Mark. Are you looking at the leadership dynamic here? I am Joe Schmo off the street that just got certified less than a year ago. But I feel I know the syllabus enough to coach my colleagues. You see how I added value to a situation that didn't ask me to add value to it. I just minded my own business, doing my job. When I see people failing, but I stand up, I lead. So for those critics, because I know there are lots of critics about PMI critics, it's not enough to get the PMP or the ACP or the CAPM. Number one, you have to make it pragmatic. And number two, you have to add value. You have to have a value radar on to see. Another example is I was a producer in a gaming company, and that's just code for project program manager. So I worked in this gaming organization, and I realized we were lacking structure and finesse. What did I do? I brought a framework that watch this. I carved a framework out of PMBOK and I presented it to my boss and team, and he couldn't understand the genius. He regarded what I was saying as this is, and this is someone from Microsoft, so he's not someone who doesn't understand process, but his mind was blown with what I had carved out of simple initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, closing. Carved it out of this, presented it as a framework we could use, and I was king of the hill. You see, the value you bring, it's not about the certification. And, while in one vein we can point fingers at the PMI, but in the other vein, we got to point fingers at ourselves, or just realize that the other four fingers are pointing at us. We got to do that groundwork. Similar to what Ed said, you can say, well, I guess they said we shouldn't use charters here, so I'll just manage without a charter. That is a dumb sheep mentality. You are a professional. You get what I'm saying? I get animated. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not. Because some of you need to hear this. You get certified and then you just follow like a dumb sheep. You're following a dumb shepherd that doesn't know left from right. They ain't ever had a PMO. They've never put processes and procedures in place, and you're following the firm that's blindly and foolishly doing things instead of showing the value of a project charter. But the problem, going back to, which comes first, chicken or the egg? I think part of the problem is a lot of these PMP courses, they're not pragmatic enough. They can get you certified, but in terms of the pragmatism and the leadership awareness, sadly, they don't provide them. So I can't point fingers at PMI alone. We also need to point fingers at the PMs who are getting certified, and then I guess I'll just hide my PMP under the desk. So this is
Phill, can I interrupt you respectfully?
Sure, go for it.
I 100% agree with what you just was mentioning. However, with AI, like I said, being part of our lives personally, through your Android phone, to your iPhone, everybody can be an Insta expert at any point.
Everyone can be a what, Darrell?
Anybody can be an Insta expert at any time.
How?
Because AI is as simple as it can get right now, with the potential of being so sophisticated that it fulfills our way of understanding. It really gives us what we want.
Gotcha.
So if your boss is having an issue with processes, you're able to ask your ChatGPT, how can I better improve this? You're able to bring that to the table.
Leadership, Darrell. Do you see what you just did? You executed a leadership thought in going to the AI. Some people ain't gonna do that. Some people aren't gonna have the gumption or the aptitude, the leadership aptitude to be resourceful and go to the AI. Like, I still hear people asking me obvious questions you can Google. Not even that you need to go to GPT. And guess what, Darrell? They don't do it. It's still leadership.
It's leadership. However, it's also a bad habit. We are going to be, we're going to have to not apply that bad habit. This is just like drinking beer and drinking and driving, in my opinion, especially with AI. So it's going to be interesting to see how we adapt to AI when it comes to projects of all sizes.
You bring up a very good point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just think just like anything, I shared with you guys recently about, and a year or two ago or longer, about that McDonald's that they built, where it is, you might as well just say it's AI generated in a sense, because everything is mostly automated, from placing your order to, they do have someone sliding your order down. But just like anything, I believe we're going to have to have to adapt. Now, AI is on a bigger level, just like how when the internet came, and I remember one night I'm sitting up there applying for jobs, and my mom asking me, well, why are you not going to these places filling out applications? I was like, we don't do that anymore, Mom. This is what we do now. And so, and this goes back to the DSL, the AOL disk type deal. So everything evolves. I think the most poignant question to ask is, how are we going to evolve, or watch this, get ahead of where everything is going? And I think that's what you're trying to drive, Darrell, of really getting ahead and being prepared.
Right, right, exactly. And it's just because, like I said, I go on PMI.org and I want to take an exam. Okay, I want to become a program manager. Oh my God, it's $1,000. Okay, why? Does this $1,000 get me a job as a program manager, or do I still have to provide the the networking and stuff? So it doesn't give that value and that sense of where we're at right now with AI, of how we all say robots are coming. Now AI agents are coming, not sophisticated ones, but the simple ones that will be able to give you the opportunity to have it do tasks at a simple level, meaning it will take notes for you, which Zoom has it, Microsoft Team has it, so either way, AI is being integrated as we speak. And we still are not understanding how powerful it can be when it comes to project management.
You bring up a very good point. Something that just jogged my memory, Darrell, is the fact that the value, like you said, you go to the website, okay, $1,000. Why? I mean, why is it not the same price as PMP? And this is a question that PMI will have to answer. I don't think the value proposition is very clear for PgMP. Is it just to tag on a higher price, or is there truly more value from being a PgMP? Because if you go on all the job boards, you'll be fortunate to find 5 current in the past 1 month jobs that refer to PgMP as a must. So you bring up a very good point, which takes me back to many years ago under different leadership. There was an aspect of the PMI's portals where you could search for a job based on what your certificate was, and PMI would kind of bring jobs to the forefront. I don't know if they still do that. I haven't seen that in a
Yeah, I
while.
just recently got an email about that, Phill. I'm so glad you brought that up. Like literally, I think this week or last week, and I was like, "What is this?" And yes, you're right. What you're talking about.
Oh, that's cool. So, I mean, that's part of value. But again, to $1,000 is a lot of money. And when you fail the exam, let's talk about the resit fees. PMI makes a killing from those. So I guess this is a word for PMI and our friends in the organization. Try to add more value, more, and even if you're doing it, the value gets buried when it's not brought to the surface. You got to bring some more value. But I want to give a shout out real quick to a few of our friends who came through. So, first of all, we had one of our friends who said, will this be available for replay? I'm not sure who this is, but yes, it will be available for replay. We had our friend Marcus come through and say, what's up, Ed? Thank you, Marcus, for coming through. And then we have our collaborator and friend from the Praision tribe, Scott. And Scott, welcome. Scott, I know I owe you a response to one of your most recent emails, so hold on to that thought. But thank you for this comment. Scott says, but with AI, you need to understand the problem first, and then have to have understanding to ask it the right questions in the first place. It's the same relative question of what tools do I have and what task do I use the tool for? Do I use the half driver to turn that nut, or a torque wrench? Very good analogy, Scott. And Scott also sent in this other comment and said a significant number of projects fail. So having a cert is just a start. You have to be able to execute. And you can see from Scott's title there, he has a lot of these certifications. He says PMs are leaders of people. So having a framework is better than no frame. You have to have processes to teach people and lead them towards goals. Exactly. Thank you for articulating that. So when you take a look at
Phil,
a
I
lot of
wanted to comment on Scott's comment and yours as well. And this is, targeting outside PMI and price gouging. Um, Everybody's going to be price gouging. We all see it right now. Take my AI
Mm,
course. You get it's 500 bucks. You're going to get a job tomorrow. You take that course, you spend 500 bucks, nothing happens after a week. So we're going to be expecting those types of agencies providing that type of advertisement, to grab your attention. And that's why the value I'm always expressing in this forum, what's the value out of this? Why am I
mm,
sitting in this webinar?
yeah.
If I take this journey, to take time away from my family, watching TV shows,
Mm,
does it get me where I need to be?
that's a
And
great question. Yeah,
we're all going to experience that. We
true.
see it every day now.
Hmm.
With the thought leaders in PMI. I
Yep.
know AI. I've been doing AI for 40 years. Okay, I get it. So why aren't you doing this?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So my understanding of this is we need to collaborate, but nobody is collaborating
Mm,
in our
yeah.
profession.
True.
Man, I
True.
wonder. You got to tee that question up, Phil. We can't. Hey, I got time if you got time.
Yeah.
Because that, I mean, but I just, because that's an interesting question about value. It's still coming back to this value question. I mean, because when you think about it back in the day, and they kind of, I'll say, controlled it a little bit better. I call it the shiny object syndrome, where they're selling you, hey, buy this product or buy this course, and you'll be able to make $1 million. Look, I'll show you the receipts of how I've done it. But I just think if we have to, again, go into Phill of what he was saying about, we also have to take accountability for ourselves as well. And we can't put it all on PMI. With regards to what I mean by that is that that's like getting a college degree, and then
Mm,
I get out of school and I don't get a job. Man, I'm not telling you something I heard. This is something I lived. As soon as I graduated school, I ended up in retail, and I was confused. Why am I in retail with a 4-year degree? And I was
mm,
I was sold the dream of, hey, go get this college degree, and you should be able to walk into corporate America or business and or whatnot. But then this is what leads me to what Jay said is you don't have the experience. So then you go chase the experience piece next. So I know you want to say something on that. What was your thoughts, Darrell?
I understand that. However, in the near future, project managers are going to be asked, what have you built with AI in your project, in your projects? Or tell me a time where you had a situation where you had to integrate AI in your project, and what did you do to overcome that? And how did you help influence and adopt AI in your project? Or how questions like, okay, I feel your resume was created by ChatGPT, dude. Tell me why it's worded as ChatGPT when the way you're speaking is not as it doesn't align with your resume.
Well, but I just, even with that, even looking at ChatGPT for the resume system, see, this is, to me, this is a big chessboard. And when you're looking at the chessboard, and I'm looking at it and saying, well, hey, you use an application tracking system, because you're looking for keywords. And fortunately and unfortunately, some great or exceptional candidates get kicked out because of they don't have the right keywords. So I use ChatGPT or any particular AI system out there to actually help me when it comes to, so I can get in front of the hiring manager, because I believe and I know I'm deserving just as anyone else. So it's really it's they do this, okay, well, we got to pivot and do that. So
mm. Good points. I want to hit this really thoughtful question from Dr. Ngondo, which says, how sustainability and green project management could be integrated in the PMBOK guide and impacting the overall PMI certifications? That is a great question. And I believe that the PMI has been addressing this for some time. But I think there's actually a very good resource, someone who could, uh, let me put
So,
here.
can I take that question? And I'm thinking more of more of a technical one with the doctor with
Absolutely.
doctor's question.
I want to hit this resource real quick because he's actually an authority on this. So let me put his name up and then you can go after that. So if you go to the link that I'm going to put in the chat, his name is Rich Maltzman. This is what he loves, right? And this is what he does. So as far as green, I would recommend that you hit him up with that question on LinkedIn. He's an educator. He's a great ambassador for this topic. Check out the link in LinkedIn and then just engage him in conversation. He'll probably have a better answer than I can give you. But let's hear what Darrell has to say. Go for it, Darrell.
With the question from the doctor, from my understanding, that's going to be in that's going to come up with the idea of having AI being integrated in critical chain, in the construction area, and more in that environment. And the question that comes up in my understanding with that question is, will it also enhance or replace the mediocre project manager?
Any comments from D or Ed on that?
No, I want to go check out that resource you just provided, Phill, because that lane for me, because when I think of green projects, I think more of going from like solar power type projects or green electric. And I mean, so I'm not that averse in that. So I don't want to speak, but I just think it is going to be interesting to see where do we go with this. Will we start moving away to more electric type, vehicles and getting away from gas and or I should just say oil in general.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. So definitely check out the resource that I put there for Rich. Great guy. He's an educator, loves to educate. He'll probably engage you in some discussion if you hit him up on LinkedIn. And then you can also check out this link that PMI had put out, a strategic partnership between PMI and Green Project Management, an internationally certified social enterprise. Check those out because I don't want to give you 2 cents that is not really worth 2 cents, if you get what I mean. If I was
And
going to tackle this,
PMI actually had and it might be on demand now, but they had a webinar. Can't remember if it was maybe about a year ago. I remember listening to it on Green. So check their on-demand webinars. You might even find where they had a speaker on about in reference to Green and project management strategy.
awesome. Thank you, D. Appreciate that. And yeah, check that out, and I'm sure you'll get some valuable information. As a layman, if I was, I've taught a company or two that is deeply into green, but what I would say is that it's not a bad addition. What PMI has done over the past number of years is they have created addendums to the PMBOK guide. At my last review, I don't recall seeing any addendums, in the area of green energy and stuff. But it's a good question, especially the way the world is tending towards this topic more than ever before. Definitely something good to add in. And I'll leave you to do some research. Being a doctor, I know you won't have any trouble doing that using the links that have been provided. Awesome. Okay. So to kind of bring this 360, because I know everybody's got stuff that they could be doing, while I appreciate the discussion, I have not quite seen anything like this. So hopefully this will be the beginnings of other people taking on the mantle to discuss it and bring thoughts to the table. But as far as the other certs that I have not highlighted, the PfMP, Portfolio Management Professional. Again, it is great to have a framework, similar to what Scott was saying. When you have the framework, you can then take it and you can customize it for each organization. But some folks, they haven't really thought about doing a portfolio management certification. Maybe if you are involved in selecting programs and projects in your firm, well, this could add value to you. Talking about value, Darrell's question, which, I mean, that's just such a great wormhole to go down. Because if you talk about value, if you are in the profession, if you are a program manager and a portfolio manager, and you don't have a framework to save yourself, wow, yeah, you should jump on this, to even if it's just to understand the framework and then take that framework and adapt it to your own organization. If your organization is involving you in portfolio management decisions and you don't have a PfMP, why would you argue that? Especially if you're getting, six figures at least, higher six figures. Why wouldn't you take time to add value to yourself so you can add some value to the firm? Let's not forget that a lot of the value will come from the knowledge. So if you're just looking to get certified, that's not good enough. You should be looking to get the knowledge and make it pragmatic. The same for the PMI-PBA. I've been through the syllabus. It's a very good program in terms of the syllabus, but again, you could get certified and not pragmatize it. You got to pragmatize all this stuff. So that's about $555 for non-members. The RMP, hugely beneficial to me as a professional, because what this did for me was make me more attuned to how to apply risk management to my project. So I'd already gotten experience doing this, especially in my Motorola program. This whole concept of risk I'd never seen it like that anywhere. Even the previous firms like Honeywell and so on I'd been in, yeah, we do risk management a different way, but this was really more by the PMI book. So that helped me a whole lot. PMI-SP is one. I've kind of been Darrell, what's your thought on this? Because I've kind of been beckoning to Darrell to take the bait and do PMI-SP. Is this still on your to-do list, Darrell?
Most likely, Phil, but we'll see in the near future.
He drank the AI Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a pretty amazing Kool-Aid. So everyone's gonna be able to drink the Kool-Aid pretty soon.
Understandable. And honestly, Darrell, let's pragmatize this, because what I'm doing, let me ask the viewers, which certification did I just pull a trick from and use on Darrell right now? Can you guess? There's a certification that does what Darrell just explained. He said, yeah, drank the AI Kool-Aid. You know which cert that is? Okay. Pragmatically speaking, that is what we do in portfolio management. So now you get the chance of seeing this stuff in action, because portfolio management, as PMI says, is doing the right work. Project management is doing the work right, but portfolio management is doing the right work. And for Darrell right now, he just made a choice. I'm following the AI trail, and the PMI-SP trail is putting on the back burner because he made a decision to choose a program based on value, based on urgency. Because if he doesn't get on that bandwagon now, before you get to July, Altman and Musk and all those players in the AI game, they've moved 20 steps ahead. So you got to stay on it. So yeah, point taken, Darrell. I understand.
And Phil, the reason why I chose this journey is because, everyone is saying AI is going to take over your job. No, someone who knows AI, even the basics of AI, will take over your job. So you can have you can go through all this journey of being a PMP, CAPM, but the honest truth in reality, you need to know the basics of AI.
Wow. That's a really great, profound thought right there, Darrell. So let's unpack that. So what Darrell is saying, we already see happening today. How many jobs that you see were done prior by someone else, but now that AI is on the scene, it ain't being done by that person anymore. It's being done by someone else, right? Who understands how to use the tool, how to use AI. Case in point, I would hire, and don't judge me for this. Back in the day, I would hire several artists, illustrators, colorists, um, people who can write the storyboards for comics, because I used to publish comics back in the day. But guess what? I don't even need to hire them anymore because AI is going to do it with revisions, no questions asked. Why didn't you tell me this before? Why are you doing this at the 99th hour? I can just ask Sora or Midjourney to revise it. So you bring up a great point, Darrell, and taking that as a cookie cutter and translating it to the world of project management, you're very correct. If I couple what you've said with what Scott said, I can see that if you have good leadership understanding, you're going to know the right questions to ask the AI. And as you said, if you have the AI understanding, you're going to put those two together and you're going to be unstoppable. And you could manage 100 projects without blinking an eye because your agents will be doing it. So, Darrell, speaking of agents, because some of our friends on the call don't understand agentic AI, can you unpack that a little bit for them so people know what do you mean by agent? Isn't GPT an agent? Can you clarify that for them?
Um, so an agent is a chatbot, more advanced, that will perform physical real-world tasks on your behalf, meaning it can plan, it can reason, it can execute specific tasks that you ask it, like plan a meeting in Microsoft Teams. And with ChatGPT is just a chatbot, like we are always accustomed to, like Siri or Alexa. So taking that ChatGPT chatbot environment and having it act on your behalf is what an agent is supposed to do. It can do some simple tasks, but not when it comes to being complex. So the basics of general AI is where it's at right now. The sophisticated AI agents are not well defined just yet. It's coming, but it's not. We're not there yet.
Mm, very good food for thought, Darrell. So we're talking about higher levels of autonomy where you don't even need to be pressing any buttons. It's thinking for you and it's acting for you without you pulling any puppet strings from the back end, right?
Yes, and we see that now with Alexa and Siri, where we're talking to someone in person about buying Doritos because I'm craving Doritos. An hour later, you see Alexa or Amazon giving you some feeds on your
Great.
Instagram or YouTube. Yes, or your iPhone. Hey, there's an Amazon sale for Doritos for this amount. So we're getting accustomed to how AI is going to be playing that role in decision making processes together with projects.
Hmm. Good deal. Thank you, Darrell. We got some great chats in from our friends. So, Scott, thank you for this comment. I think the good doctor will appreciate it. So, in response to the good doctor's question, Scott says, as a systems engineer, sustainability to me is about the project life cycle from conception to retirement. Can you integrate sustainability in your prototype and building and manufacturing of the product to reduce waste streams? Because disposal or leaving a trail of hazardous waste or reducing it or lowering your carbon footprint are important considerations in building and products. Absolutely. Great thoughts. We also have another chat from Scott here. And Scott says, been to a McDonald's where you can place your screen off, your order off screens in the lobby, or AI agents or bots when you go to a company to ask for help or service. It handles the interview until it branches finally to a person. It cannot answer the question. So many tier one, tier two support functions could be handled this way in the future. Yeah. And these are jobs people have today. It's true. So I see any job requiring low end skills being replaced. It's just a sobering truth, which is why, as Darrell said, you will not be replaced by an AI, but you will be replaced by someone who knows how to manage that AI tool. Because there's a human behind it, to take from Darrell's a human in the loop uh, concept. So good stuff. Any response to that, Darrell? Any further thoughts?
Feel more of circling back to the CAPM in regards to the basic entry, ticket to getting your PMP and so forth. What are your thoughts of where it will be valued at in the near future, next maybe 5 years? Will the numbers be reduced as far as having being CAPM in that way, or will it still continue to grow?
Great question, Darrell. So in the future, what I see is all of these certifications are going to have an AI component because AI is going to become the new normal. It's going to become a standard tool for enterprise, for any business. So every walk of life will have an AI tool that pretty much is, like you said, an agent helping you along the way, even for CAPMs. Back in the day when we saw those MCSC certifications as being all this, and then they became so commonplace. So I can see the CAPM still being relevant, but not as we know it today. It's likely to include some AI considerations, some more technical considerations as the world of AI begins to evolve. That's how I see it. You know, there might even be, as the much heralded AI agent for project managers that can pretty much do everything that a project manager does without ABC instruction. It's just plug and play. It's the same way when QR codes came. People are like, "Oh, this is so." I am seeing technology advancing at such a rapid rate that these things are normal. QR codes used to be, "Oh, it's cutting edge." Now it's just, you don't use QR codes. At which century are you from? I think that's how these AI agents are going to be once they take hold. We may still be some years away, but it's actually going to get to the point where they're a lot more rampant. So I see the CAPM changing. I also see the PMP changing. I guess by the next iteration of PMP, I will be quite surprised if it does not have some form of AI component. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the right stuff right off the bat. As with PMI questions, they're going to be pre-test questions. So PMI would be prudent to put some pre-test questions in the next round so people get used to seeing them. And then as technology evolves, I see that taking root. The same for RMP and SP, more than ever before. But you and I already know, Darrell. I mean, you very recently did something with Microsoft Project and AI. You want to give the audience some, if you don't mind, is that something you're willing to talk about?
Sure. So my intent and my vision of where I want to take AI is, put in a scenario. I'm a project manager at an IT company, and it's my day to work at home today, Saturday. I have a report that's due to my team in about 2 hours, but I want to get some coffee. I want to be able to task the AI agent to physically open up Microsoft Word, create that report, and while I was doing that, I want to leave my house, physically leave my house, and go to Starbucks, kill time for an hour, and come back. And that Word document or that report will be ready for me to review and emailed to my team in under 2 hours. That's where I believe AI agents are progressing towards to. Many people believe that we already are at AGI, some sort of it, but not full AGI, in my opinion. But that's the intent of where I see an AI agent integrating with project management, because it still is going to require human in the loop. No matter how we deny it or not talk about it, it's still going to require that human in the loop. And for me to understand where project management is headed, it's very important to me, because everything is a project, in my opinion.
I love that.
I was going to say something just to add some more context on that from more of a security posture standpoint. I agree with both you and Phill. I agree with Phill saying that it's probably going to take a little bit longer, and look how we're saying longer, a year or two, or a little bit, probably no more than 5 years for AI agents because of security posturing. And a lot of organizations are not going to be willing, because the fear or the concern, even if your own organization, will this information get out to someone else that we're trying to really not let them know about? So I really think the security posturing is they're going to have to feel comfortable with the AI piece of things from an AI agent, not just leveraging AI through Copilot or anything like that.
Right. And in my opinion, and this is me speculating and predicting of where things will come about, based upon my experience living and breathing with AI agents. Yes, I do use AI agents or AI every day of my life. It's wonderful, but however, I fact check them at all times because they lie to me, just like a human being.
True. That's
So,
a good point. Yeah.
in my opinion, with what you were expressing, the security factor is going to be expedited because we are an AI race with China.
Mm-hmm.
If the AI race wasn't declared with US and China, we could debate all we want and how many years it will become, till we reach full potential AGI. Now we're in a race with China. So it really puts that into motion as far as how AI will be integrated into our lives in America.
But you open up something else, Darrell, that opens up an opportunity, potentially a job opportunity. So now you have to reskill and maybe look at, if you don't want to go into AI per se, let's say go into security, because you're going to have to defend against what may potential come. So most likely you will want to do both so you can understand both concepts. But now you're creating a new job skill set, as well as maybe even a new job opportunity that is not at a particular organization. So we are in a transition. I like that, a transition of going from maybe what was the standard job for or role for a project manager, and now is shifting from a transition to now we're going to see how well you can lead, how well you can communicate, because we got the tools. All we need to do is get the charter, plug it in. It's going to create your project management plan, your schedule. We'll have a dashboard to see the project status, etc., and everything will be automatically aligned. The only job, your role is to be able to look at the information, verify it's accurate, and then also ensure that you're leading the people with influence and inspiring them to get the work done.
And that's all fine and dandy with all nice and colorful roses. But looking at Phil's screen, I'm sorry, that's a hefty price.
Well, I appreciate the roses, Darrell, but I get where you're coming from as far as the price point. And I led with that of saying it is steep, but am I looking at it being steep in how much I paid for it, or am I looking at it from what it currently is? Because somebody back then may have said the price was steep because of what the price point is. I think the challenge though is that you start questioning if the price point is high. I'll give you an example. Burger King, I love the Impossible Burger. You get one of those things, but when they have them 2 for $5, you're like, well, I'm confused because normally one of them is $5. So I'm saying that to say everything is on the beholder of what the value that you place on it. This is why I love this conversation, because someone else that is in a position that maybe they don't like the role they're in, and they get the PMP and they're offered X amount more money, they can say, well, yeah, that was a good value exchange. I got to be able to get a higher paying job.
Right. And especially now with the jobs being lost on the government side, someone out there who's attending this session they probably lost their job. I'm really, I'm sorry if that happens if you're that person. But looking at the screen, I'm like, why am I going to take this course? Why am I going to go get certified when it's $1,000? It doesn't guarantee me a job.
Yeah, and you're right, but and I agree with you 110%. But even just like what we were saying in the comments from some of the people, it gets you in the door, but you still need the pragmatic approach, and you got to make the decision. And where you at, especially if you're working, then you may be able to save up the discretionary fund to be able to pay for the certification. But just imagine you just been laid off. Does this make sense for me to go get a certification, or does it make sense for me to go maybe volunteer somewhere where I can keep my project management skills intact and things of that nature, or go study through AI and start making sure that I'm keeping abreast of the concepts and terminologies? Because if you don't do that, then this journey, when it's not going to be worth it either way you go, getting certified or not.
Mm. Great points, gentlemen. Well, we've been going pretty aggressively for over an hour. There's so much we can talk about, but we got to land this spaceship for the benefit of us and our families, because we've been at this since 9. People watching don't understand that we've been having our Project Leadership Institute sessions before we jumped on. So I want to be mindful of that, and let people, around you be able to enjoy your presence family wise. But let's try and land this. My concern is I've got at least another 5 hours of content, but I got to shorten it down to maybe 30 minutes. So let me go into manic mode if I could. And let me break it all down. Okay, take a look at the screen here, my friends. We have all of these certifications that we've been debating and talking about. There's so many of them. We've talked about the PMI construction professional, which I think is great. As someone from the world of construction myself, I got really excited. And I actually pushed this to some of my clients for them to be able to see this and get excited about it themselves. This is good stuff that the PMI is doing here, putting these certifications, because when you think about it, if they aren't doing it, who is, right? I haven't seen many affordable construction certifications that are under $1,000 that at least establish some form of understanding from a recognized body. All right. And then we have the PMO certified professional. I am not particularly enthused by this because I think PMOs are moving to a different model. I think PMOs are going to be moving more towards a VDO, value delivery office, or community of practice, as I have done for several of my clients. We've taken it from just being a draconian PMO. I was training up in one of Warren Buffett's companies, and they said, Phill, we're not doing that PMO stuff. We tried it before, it didn't work. Why? Because it was a bit too draconian and people didn't gravitate towards it. Well, it just tells you PMOs get a bad rap because they're looked at as being the popo looking to arrest people and send them to jail. But we don't want that to be the case anymore. So we got to change our mindset. So in some organizations, PMO is a forbidden word, and I don't begrudge them for making it so. So as you proceed to get your PMI PMO, just proceed with caution. Understand that more than ever before, companies are becoming more hybridized. And as a result, the PMO model is moving away. That's right. The PMO model is moving away. And what people are doing more is going more into the world of community of practice, where we all own a piece of the pie. In fact, in the PMI's Agile Certified Practitioner book, they tell you that there's such a thing as an Agile PMO, and becoming affiliated with the PMO needs to be more of a volunteer process. So even PMI caught that in the Agile Practice Guide. But the thing is that a lot of firms do not have this forward thinking vision of moving from a PMO to a COP, community of practice, or moving to what we call a value delivery office. And there are other models. But in these models, in the community of practice model, everyone owns something and they bring their collective knowledge and they find a way of best fit, you see. So it's not always going to be a PMO model, which is the only reason why I'm not crazily enthused about it. But is it good to understand how a project management office should morph into more of a community of practice model? Yeah, but it's not one that I immediately recommend. I don't think the value to me is very much, especially as someone who's trying to move more into hybridization and more agile mindedness where it is lacking. Cognitive project management in AI, while this is a noble cause, again, I think it's too early for me to invest going towards $1,000 on this. As Darrell was alluding to, the price gouging. Yeah, I'm not a crazy fan. I do, however, love a lot of what PMI have out there. For those of you who are PMI members, PMI has a lot of free micro certifications in AI. So I would say look into those first. Some folks can barely even craft a prompt, and they're trying to spend thousands of dollars on going for the higher end college AI stuff. Don't do that. Don't waste your money, because AI is changing at such a rapid rate that it probably doesn't make much sense. Okay, so before we jump into further discussion, if we got a few seconds on AI, there is a gargantuan amount of information I have to present to you. So let me get my skates on and begin rolling the tape, because one by one, I have to break these down, okay? As the educator that I am, or I wouldn't have done it justice. PMP again on the screen. You can see that if you are a secondary school diploma holder, you need to have 5 years of experience. If you have a 4 year degree, then you need to have 3 years of experience. And if you were in a GAC accredited college, then you need to have 24 months of experience. And all of this is solidified with 35 hours of project management education from a recognized body. So for someone who said, Phill, can I just go on YouTube and watch your videos? No, you can't do that. CAPM, Certified Associate in Project Management, high school diploma. In terms of experience, none required. You need 23 hours of PM education. Okay, so you do not need that. 15 hours, 1,000 hours has been waived. And then another caveat to the PMP is if you have a CAPM, the 35 contact hours are waived, but you must have the experience on projects. Moving on to the PgMP, project management experience within the last 15 years. You need program management experience within the last 15 years. So 4 years of experience if you have a secondary diploma, and 4 years of experience if you have a 4 year degree. But when it comes to the program management experience, if you don't have a 4 year degree, then you need 84 months of experience. And then we've already taken a look at the cost. It's quite price prohibitive, as Darrell pointed out. It's very similar for the PfMP. You need business experience within the past 15 years, portfolio management experience within the last 15 years. Secondary school diploma means you need 84 months of experience. 4 year degree means you need 48 months of experience, which amounts to 4 years. From a GAC accredited degree, 36 months. And again, please check the latest and greatest, because there's so many moving parts in these. It is possible they have changed. For PMI ACP, you need agile project experience within the past 3 years, 1,500 hours, and you need 21 contact hours of agile practices training, again, from a recognized body. For PMI-PBA, secondary school diploma, you need 5 years of experience in business analysis within the past 8 years. 4 year degree, you need 36 months of experience, which is like 3 years. GAC, 24 months. And remember, 35 contact hours in business analysis practices. And we're talking about education. So don't forget the training component. Some of these I might have skipped by, but you do need those training components. So make sure you're looking for the latest and greatest. All right. PMI RMP, you need 40 hours of training, quite a lot of training. 30 if you've got a 4 year degree. If you've got a secondary school diploma, you need 3 years of experience in this regard. If you've got 4 year degree, then you need 2 years of experience in this regard for PMI RMP. Moving on to SP, scheduling professional, very similar. 40 hours, because this is more specialist. And I'll just tell you straight up, these are not easy exams. So if we go to our list and you ask me, Phill, which of these is the worst, the hardest, I would say PgMP followed by PfMP, followed by PMP. Now, again, it depends on your aptitude, but I would say the questions are very robust and much longer when it comes to the PgMP and the PfMP. The PMP is also challenging, but these others are more challenging. You need to be even more prepared because the price is crazy. As far as the RMP, it is also challenging, but I wouldn't count it being more challenging than the PMP for someone on the first go round. If you already have a PMP and you're going for RMP, in my mind, you should already have an idea of what the PMI could do. Lots of trickery, lots of, branching out questions and red herrings. Same for SP. SP was the only exam I've ever been counted out on. I saw the clock go to a zero because I was busy fighting some network diagram question. So when you're going into these, try to get some insights and understanding from those who have gone before you. For the PMI CP, it's a little bit different. We talk about completion of 4 PMI ATP construction focused modules, 36 months in construction of the built environment in the past 10 years. So they up the ante on some of the requirements there. PMI, PMO certified professional, 36 months of PM or program management or current PMP, 10 hours of PMO specific education, cognitive project management in AI, completion of CPMAI basic course from PMI, 27 to 40 hours, and experience for AI machine learning initiative practitioners. I don't think there's any prerequisite in that regard. So it's a little bit different, but please make sure you're checking all the information that you should. So at a very high level, that is some of the detail. But before we go, I don't want to leave you high and dry guessing, okay, what is the syllabus? Because the syllabus is something else that I will have to present to you. So let me go ahead and share really quick the top of the waves of the syllabus, just so that you can get some further context regarding any of these that you want to go for. And I'll just ask my friends on the call if you're able to drop any other perspectives in the chat for our friends. Please do that. So let me bring this over here. Actually, not this. Should be something else. Give me a second. I have all sorts of windows open here. It's actually like a very chaotic environment. I'm trying to consolidate all of the PMI handouts, or PMI outlines, I should say. Okay, let's try this again. Here we go. Is it this one? Okay, I think it is. Okay, good. So let's start from the beginning. And I'll do my best to share each one of these as I go over them. So the first one is a PMP. This is the content outline. And just to give you the top of the waves of what this exam will test you on, you got the people domain, which tests you on leadership, interpersonal skills, human interactions, things of that nature. 42% of the exam will be from that domain. The process domain, 50% of the exam, and the business environment aspect, just 8% of the exam. Going over to the CAPM, the CAPM was recently updated, and here you can see we have project management fundamentals and core concepts, 36% of the CAPM. Predictive plan-based methodologies, just 17%, the smallest of all. Agile, 20%, and business analysis frameworks. I had to go dust my business analysis frameworks because of this. I literally wrote a book in a book because I had to go into PMI's framework to be able to present it to my students. And I shout out to Anne, one of my students, who just got certified as a CAPM, and she had to go through all of this stuff. It's a lot of stuff when you think about it for the CAPM. Moving over to the PgMP, I have covered this on the Project Leadership Institute channel if you want to go more into this. But your PgMP exam is broken down into strategic program alignment, 14%. The biggest chunk is program lifecycle management, 44%. The concept of benefits alignment, 11%. Stakeholder engagement, 16%. And governance, 14%. Going over to the risk management professional certification, it's broken down differently from how you would imagine if you're aware of the 7 processes of risk. But we have risk strategy and planning, 22%, risk identification, 23%, risk analysis, which will be qualitative and quantitative, 23%, risk response planning, which deals with avoid, transfer, escalate, accept, mitigate, 13%, and the concept of monitoring and closing risks out in your risk register, 19%. Going over to the schedule professional, We have a breakdown, which is a little bit different from how you would expect it to be based on the 6 things we do in scheduling in other publications from PMI. But they break it down like this: schedule strategy, which a lot of people are not thinking about like a strategy, is 14%. Schedule planning and development is 31%. Schedule monitoring and controlling, which is a large chunk of how valuable scheduling is to you as a professional, is 35%. Thank goodness. Schedule closeout, 6%. And stakeholder communications management, which is what you would do with your schedule, is really more of a communication tool than a beating people over the head kind of a thing. And that's 14%. Going over to the ACP, the PMI again recently changed this in 2024, much to my almost shock horror. But I'll go into that on a different day. But we have just a more streamlined presentation of domains. Mindset is 28%. Mindset is everything, right? Leadership is 25%. And we're talking about agile leadership. And in the world of agile, who is the leader? It's the team, right? So everyone has a leadership role. We talk about self-leading, self-organizing, self-managing teams. Domain 3, we go into the concept of products. Domain 4, we go into the concept of delivery. So it's more streamlined. But if you go down to the section that talks about tools, just to give you a more robust understanding, there are a lot of tools that are now brought to the surface, like all these tools. And these tools and techniques, you got to know them. And there are some, to be quite honest, that I would rather have not included because they are less agile. But we won't get into that today. All right, let's go into the next one. I think this is the PMO content outline, but it's PMI PMOCP content outline. So top of the waves again. Organizational development and alignment, PMO strategic elements, PMO design and structuring, which honestly is most important. And if anyone truly does PMO design and structuring, in a lot of organizations, you will back out from PMO. Because for PMOs to work, it's a balance of leadership and a balance of collaboration. So you cannot force the leadership element without bringing in the accompaniment collaboration, because it's a team sport. PMOs are a team sport, which is where I have, my own opinions about it. PMO operation and performance, 15%. PMO enhancement and effectiveness, 18%. And people. One of my students graduated with a master's in project and program management, and one of her assignments was to talk about PMO. So we went into this, and a shout out to Shauna, who got certified as a PMP recently. But this is the stuff she studied in college. And guess who her mentor and coach was? Yours truly. So we went into a lot of this stuff. And what I began to unravel is that there's so many dimensions with PMOs, it could be a slippery slope. You have to be careful. The people element is very poorly accounted for as 15%. Honestly, in my mind, this should have been 50%. Because, the collaborative piece are more important. But let me get off my soapbox. Let's go to the next one. Next one is CPMAI. I'm going to ask Darrell to join me in commenting. So, Darrell, here we are at the domain versus percentage questions on the exam. We have AI fundamentals, 16%, CPMAI methodology, which is their unique bespoke methodology, 41%, machine learning, 13%, data for AI, 13%, managing AI, 8%, and trustworthy AI, 9%. What are your opinions, Darrell, on this breakdown of the PMI AI certification?
It's only touching the surface of AI, Phill, on how AI can be integrated in project management. It's also touching the surface with how the brain works, having the word C in front of the AI. It doesn't focus heavily on that as well. And this is me just understanding the website and reviewing it, asking ChatGPT, is it worth the money? And what is it missing in regards to AI and PM and so forth. So it's too early to tell on this credential, considering the high prices.
Awesome, Darrell. And I agree with you that it's too early. So you would have liked, as an educator, because you're my AI coach. So as someone that I've learned AI from, a lot of AI, and you're so wildly on the technical side of AI as well as the ethics side and the leadership side. But let me ask you, if you are going to up the ante on any topic that is here or not, which topic would you accentuate a little bit more?
The first two, the AI fundamentals and the CPM AI, basically because we all have to understand the basics, no matter what
Mm,
level you come from. And
mm.
it's understanding prompt engineering, understanding what GPT is, understanding how to type in chat GPT on the internet, so it's just those basic fundamentals of AI and cognitive in that perspective.
Great stuff, Darrell. So let's take a very quick look. So this is understanding of artificial general intelligence, AGI, strong AI, weak AI, basic stuff, the Turing test. So some of these are the basics that you would expect: AI applications and patterns, applying machine learning fundamentals. And then let's take a look at the CPMI methodology, differentiating AI project management approaches. So this getting more into project management from an AI lens. Explain why AI projects differ from traditional software development, evaluate ROI. A lot of stuff that PMI have recently put out here when they selling this course, executing the business understanding phase, managing
and,
the
and, and
data.
and it's slowly becoming obsolete. That curriculum.
Absolutely. Yes. And without going into that today, but I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. And you're very correct when you say it is very early in the day, because AI is reforming by the second. So a lot of what we
Right.
might have thought was the way forward yesterday, it could very well change and morph today. So hopefully this is going to be updated with, because certain things are becoming more relevant in the world of AI than they were yesterday. Like agentic AI. No one was talking about this in the very beginning, but it has very quickly overtaken a lot of the thoughts. So when your agent, going to Darrell's thinking, when your agent knows all of this stuff more than you do, what's the value?
Yes,
You know?
that's correct.
So
And,
so
and at this level, at this day and age, ChatGPT understands the basics of project management.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it does.
Yes, it does. And honestly, a lot of the questions that so in the very beginning, you can go back and watch the videos on the Project Leadership Institute channel. But, as a result of your influence, Darrell, I was one of the very early adopters of feeding AI questions that humans like me had written. And it was actually getting in the 60%. So it knew a lot even in the very beginning. And as time has gone on, that number has gone to 70 and 80%. It's hard to fool it, even with PMBOK, and it understands context quite well. So it's good food for thought when you take a look at this exam outline to really probe and ask, will this still be relevant tomorrow? But anyway, thank you, Darrell. Final one that I'll cover here is the PMI CP, the construction professional, PMI construction professional. A very high level, we'll just take a look at the breakdown. So we have contracts management, which is big. Those relationships are big. 50% is, in my mind, a good number. It might be a little bit over the top, but still not bad. Stakeholder engagement, 30%, definitely needs to be up there in number. So very good. Strategy and scope management, 15%. Project governance, I would have been expecting more from project governance, definitely in the world of construction. But again, I haven't been through the exact training, and this is delivered by PMI as well. So who knows? Just looking under the hood, we have managing risks, the process for construction and built environment projects, determine how to apply risk tools, managing the claims process, managing the contract lifecycle efficiently, implementing interface management process efficiently, and that includes establishing and planning all the interface points. That would make sense. Stakeholder engagement needs no introduction because this is a very slippery slope in construction. utilizing communication tools, preventing communication issues, definitely much needed, mitigating communication issues, strategy and scope, and project governance. Something I would have been looking for just a tiny little bit more would have been the concept of health and safety. And these are some of the companies that I've trained. Those are some of their hot buttons. Let me do a very quick search. I'm gonna hope safety. No, safety doesn't even appear in. Oh my goodness, PMI. We need to talk about safety. We need to talk more about safety. Anyway, with that said, we have covered the PMP, the CAPM, the PgMP, the RMP, the SP, the ACP, the PMO, the AI from PMI certification, and the construction. So we've gone pretty aggressively, we've gone pretty hard. I'm going to take all these links and I'm going to begin dropping them in the chat. But I want to say thank you to our friends who came through. We got a chat, not much information on PMO cert and how is that? Oh, very good question, Andrea. So thank you for asking. So let's bring this question up on the screen to talk about this a little bit more. The PMO cert and how is that complementary to PMP? Great question. Let me make it very clear that the PMP is project management across hybrid, agile, and predictive. Hybrid, agile, and predictive. So it's very important that when you take a look at this PMI's PMO certification, full disclosure and honesty. A lot of companies don't care. They don't care about this. Let's bring it under the microscope a little bit more. Let me explain why they don't care. Some firms don't care because they are running off an agile model that is not PMO driven. You got to remember what is good for organization X is organization Y. It's like you're just killing the firm. Sure way to kill an agile firm is by introducing the concept of a PMO. Why is that? Because we understand through this work we've come to value. What does the Agile Manifesto say? Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So being very tool heavy and tool pushy is not the best way to go. And just calling it a PMO is aesthetically poor for an agile firm. So, in those instances, if you're looking at this to complement your PMP, it's probably not the best way to go because the definition of PMP is rapidly changing. A lot of people finding themselves in hybrid environments where a lot of the predictive and traditional stuff has gone away. Now, if you are like me, who has worked in a very heavy PMO driven environment, like when I was at American Airlines, I worked in the PMO for the PMO. The question is, how would this help me in such a firm? And the answer would be, it could help me be a better leader as a member of the PMO. But if I'm not in that environment and I want to pivot my career towards a more hybrid ecumenical direction, just as I have, because I've embraced Agile more than ever before in the last 5 years plus, then probably not. I won't. So I will not be going for this certification. Let me tell you why. You cannot replace pragmatism and Taylorism. And I say Taylorism, being able to tailor from firm to firm. You cannot replace that with, I don't care what this has to offer. Because I've worked with so many variant organizations, it's so different. They're variant of what we would consider to be the norm that no amount of this stuff is going to help me when I come across those curveballs. Now, would I say don't read the literature? No, the literature could help you. But personally, I'm not a strong believer in PMOs. I would rather steer organizations, and honestly, I have done that. So I've been steering organizations that I'm mentoring and coaching towards a more community of practice driven model. I've been getting them to socialize the concepts of charters and requirements traceability matrices and work breakdown structures and risk registers and the concept of qualitative and quantitative risk analysis and earned value. I've been getting them to socialize these from a more grassroots perspective than having big government in the firm. Now, I'm not saying PMOs are all bad. I'm just saying the philosophy, personally, I prefer the community of practice philosophy because it's more long lasting. As in the example I gave you in that Warren Buffett's company I trained in, PMO didn't fly. Why is that? Because once the champion was out of the door, people are like, thank goodness, let's get rid of this rubbish. Because it wasn't socialized and didn't become grassroots. And once the singular champion is out of the door, there's no one else to champion it. So communities of practice are my preferred model, or an agile PMO, which I would still not want to call a project management office. I would want to call it a value delivery office, right? Or something else. So if you're looking for advice from someone who has been there, done that, I would say a PMO certification doesn't mean very much in terms of how you're going to be able to deal with the curveballs in different firms. The best way to deal with these curveballs is to truly understand what you learned in the very beginning. This stuff. If you did, if your instructor exposed you to it, know it inside out and understand the value of each page in this book. And I'm showing you the 6th edition. I know. 7th edition, not so much. 6th edition, definitely. More for the PMO mindedness because you're going to be able to defend everything that is brought to the table. In some instances, a WBS and a WBS dictionary is required. In other instances, you don't need the dictionary. In some instances, you need a business case. In other instances, it should be accompanied with a benefits management plan, depending on the firm. And you don't necessarily need to go spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars only to find yourself in an agile driven environment where this stuff doesn't fly. So the question is usually, well, Phill, what should I do after my PMP? Pragmatize it. Make it practical. Make sure you know every single page in the book. And again, I know the 8th is on the way. And while I would encourage you to read it, I still want to encourage you to hold on to the 6th. Why is that? Well, if you look at the history of project management over the past 2 decades, organizations are becoming increasingly frustrated with a new mousetrap being presented in every new PMBOK guide. A majority of the hundreds and thousands of PMs that I've trained, coached, and mentored, those who are influential in firms, you know what they're doing? Some of them are sticking to their 5th editions. Some of them are sticking to their 6th editions. When this one came out, PMI had already lost a lot of people. And at that point, people stopped regarding PMBOK 7 as worth anything. And to my point, if you take a look at the 8th edition in the works, they've thrown the principles from the 7th out of the window. And they've written additional new principles for the 8th. In my mind, it's just reckless. You don't do that, to people you are leading. You don't change for change's sake. Needless. It's called kaeyaku. We have kaizen, good change. We have kaeyaku, bad change for change's sake. We can't keep flipping the switch on people. Many firms, they spend thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars implementing frameworks based on PMBOK 4, 5, 6. Then we come with the 7th and there's no guidance. And now we come with the 8th, which has thrown out integration, calling it governance, thrown out communications, dumped it in stakeholder. I mean, there's only so far you can push people to the brink of frustration. And a lot of the firms I mentor and coach are just like, no, we're good. You want to buy PEM? No, we're good, Phill. So my recommendation is truly know what today's the 49 process is. I don't think a lot of firms are going to be gravitating towards what the 8th presents. So, as far as the PMO certification that you were asking about, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend really knowing what you have in PMBOK 6. I would recommend being able to pragmatize. Like, if you can pragmatize and defend everything in this book, you will be a lot more value to any firm than someone who has all the PMO certifications put together. Because it's not about that. Firstly, it's about being able to make things pragmatic. And secondly, it's about leadership. And you know what leadership is? It's about influence. So when I see the DNA of a project manager that's in a firm and they're not influencing by example, they're not showing by example, simple things like charters. Let me distill it down for you. We make things very hard in the world of project management. If I was going to distill down for you the top 10 things that every, let's even say PMO, if they wanted to accentuate the top 10 things, number one would be a business case. Number two would be a benefits management plan. Number three would be a project charter. Number four would be a stakeholder register. Number five would be a project management plan. Number six would be a lessons learned register. Number seven would be an issue log. Number eight would be a risk register. Number nine would be a work performance report. And number 10 will probably be a final report. And if you got all of these things down pat and people understand the value and the relevance, it will be a better world in any organization than piling hundreds of ITTOs on the table. People just get fed up. And it's not about the ITTOs. If you take a look at history, project management success, whether you're looking at the Taj Mahal or the Model T or the Pyramids of Giza, it didn't come from project documents, my friends. It came from good old horse sense, grit, determination, collaboration, and of course, impeccable communication, which is what the project manager spends 70 to 90% of the time doing. So while we have taken a look at all of these bottomless pit of certifications, I don't mean that in a bad way. Certifications are good. But if you cannot make it pragmatic, you can have all the certifications in the world. It might help you get in the door of a firm, but that individual might be kicked out faster than they can blink if they cannot show true value and pragmatism. So for many of you who are PMPs, your next step, in my mind, should be pragmatism, which means going back to the drawing board. Those of you who skipped PMBOK 6, or you skip the understanding of the processes, you are at a disadvantage compared to someone who does. So getting more certificates is just like piling a bunch of sand on you without being able to find a tunnel to show people the way, Any comments from my friends Deidre and Ed and Darrell about these things as we round up?
I think you really rounded that up. And I also want to let you know that I put the link in there that has all the different certifications, just in case if they want to explore other certifications. So it'll take them right to the page. But really, the context of everything, I know we went in different directions, is really about being pragmatic, getting a certification and just not getting it and doing anything with it, whether it's being a influencer to project management by creating content, what we're doing here today, or it's being a change agent within your organization. It's just important to really, all that time that you spent and sitting and passing this exam, that you actually leverage some of those skill sets. And the last part that you had regarding the PMO, that was really insightful, because I really think we are moving away from the three functionalities of supportive, directive, and controlling within a PMO, which a PMO is valuable. But what ends up happening a lot of times is that they don't want to pivot. So it's yes, we always do it this way. And I'm on the grass. I'm actually doing the projects day in and day out. And I'm saying, Yeah, that particular artifact is not aligned because it becomes a what it is called a artifact where it just sits there and no one really looks at it hardly. So I love the way that you really broke down the PMO piece of things. It's valuable to actually provide value to the business, and that's why the PMO was established anyway. So over to you, Phill.
Great stuff, Ed. Any final thoughts, Darrell, Deidre?
Yes, I'll go back to understanding the value and relevancy. And for me, from my experience, it started within myself, understanding the value that I could bring and transfer to the organization and individuals within the organization, which is wrapping up everything. So I take it back to the human part. It begins with me, understanding the value that's inside of me. How do I get to understand that value? I'm going to take it right back to mentorship. Project Leadership Institute. If you are not a part of a mentorship program to allow you to see the value that's inside of you, you cannot bring value to an organization or others. So that's my tip of the day.
Thank you, Dee. Appreciate that. Darrell, any final thoughts and wrap ups and musings on the AI perspective to a lot of what we've been saying since you are our AI guy?
Yes, for me, Phil, um, the key takeaway for this webinar and forum is to sit down and just do the pros and cons for everything that you're trying to do to accomplish that credential. Because it's the value behind it today and moving forward. Um, don't fall into that hype of just because I'm going to get certified doesn't mean I'm going to get a high paying job. You still got a
Mm,
network, you still got to have the experience. However, you need to understand that a lot of educators, leaders out there, entities, agencies, you name it, are going to start to price gouge. So you need to understand what value it can bring to you and also
mm.
what value it can bring to you with you, when it comes to being in that environment.
Beautiful stuff. All right, my friends. I want to thank everyone who came through and commented. Jay, Scott, Marcus, Andrea for coming through. Our other friends on LinkedIn who chatted in. The good Dr. Ngondo for sending in that very good question on green. And hopefully you're able to connect with Rich Maltzman there. Marcus, thank you. Marcus chatted something in. I don't know if I shared this. But Marcus said, I found that certs get your foot in the door with professionals, but it's what you do with it. For example, certs in academia haven't really changed anything for me. It's just not looked at as a big deal there besides bragging rights. It's sobering, but it's true. It's the truth. So thank you for sending that in. Did we miss anything else, Ed, Darrell? Did we get them all in?
Everything looks good. The last one was from Scott that I've seen here regarding why get certified. But
Okay.
yeah,
Why get certified? Because in a pragmatic sense, it values signals that you care about your profession. That's true to get certified versus those that don't. Very, very true, Scott. It gets you past the HR gatekeeper. Unfortunately, this is a world we still live in. It's very true. In fact, as Ed, you alluded to the applicant tracking system. Yeah, the applicant tracking system is the new normal. And a lot of the good candidates they don't even get there because they don't have the PMP. And while I hear a lot of people's arguments, I hear a lot of people say, "Well, PMI is all this stuff is a scam," and I understand your viewpoint, but you could stay on the sidelines and not get certified and keep banging your head on a brick wall, or you can join the paddy wagon and then you can go from getting in the 40s to high six figures, as it was the case for me. I was struggling to get out of the crab barrel. My salary was a joke. It was the joke of the day in the company I was in. There was a project we were working on, and I had racked up quite a number of overtime hours. And when my boss saw the sheets, like, oh my goodness, look at all this overtime, all this overtime, all this overtime. Oh, it's just Phill. Oh, if it was person X, that would have been a nightmare. Phill, not a problem. Wow, did you just give me a backhanded insult? And I said, yeah, I need to get out of this. That by the time your salary becomes a mockery, is just sad. So I did everything I could to get PMP certified. My salary level went up from getting in the meager 40s in the blink of an eye. It barely took a month plus into the mid hundreds because of PMP. Now, it's not just the PMP. PMP got me in the door. But you know what kept me there? Ed said it. You got to make it pragmatic. You got to be able to speak to everything you put on your resume. There are a lot of people, they have PMP on their resume. Now, if they got into a firm such as one that I interviewed in, and they began asking you about what do you really say project management is? What do you say about programs and portfolios and integration and schedule, cost, scope, risk, procurement, stakeholder? What is a product owner? What is Scrum? What is Agile? What does the Agile Manifesto say? And you're like, it's going to be curtains. The reason why I got into several high paying jobs is not only did I kill the interview, I remember my earned value interview with Honeywell. I just decimated that interview, dropped the mic, and I was overseas when I interviewed at the time. I was in the United Kingdom. It was a virtual interview, but it was so compelling. Why? Because I had done the work, not just rattling off, well, CPI equals EV over AC. Any idiot can rattle off those formulas. But I had spent time, watch this, making this stuff realistic by going over scenarios and making it real, such that when the interview came and I killed it and I got in the job, watch this. A 9-month job I did in 3 months. It was earned value related. I was an earned value evangelist. How did I do it? This and this. Not just the brains, but I internalized it and I believed every word of what I was saying. That's how you do it, my friends. You get certified, but you have a belief system in what you've read, what you studied. It's so real to you. And when you speak about it, it comes across and people embrace it. A lot of people were against earned value when I started at Honeywell. But by the time I was done, they were lapping it all up. They liked it. They ate it. And I pretty much worked myself out of a job, moved from defense and space into IT effectiveness the following week. You see, I got the interview, but I wowed the interviewer. And when I got in the role, my work ethic saw me through. Crazy stuff. So it's not enough to get certified. You got to work it, my friends. You got to work those processes that you was certified on. Work the knowledge, and don't forget the leadership. Because true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And if you're not influencing, you're not leading. And if you got a PMP and you're not leading with it, then it's not going to end the way you want. So you got to be bold, you got to be strong. But again, like Darrell said, like when I was challenging Darrell's thoughts of, well, how did you get so good in controls? Darrell did the work. He put in the work, and he's on the stage, not only on this occasion, but other occasions, training and coaching others in scheduling and project controls with me and others. So you got to put in the work, right? You got to put in the effort. The same way Deidre and Ed are on this call, they could be doing other things. They've got more than just a PMP, but they are here not only to contribute to the discussion, but also learn. So that's my recommendation. Make it pragmatic, learn, be a leader, and it's all going to work out. Thank you very much, my friends. Wishing you all the very best. And if you got any other questions beyond this, feel free to put them in the chats and the comments below. This is also streaming on Edge channels, streaming on LinkedIn with Darrell as well. So don't forget, we're always here for you. Bounce off any ideas of us, and we'll be happy to comment. Thank you very much. All the very best, and bye for now.